The time is now 7:30 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting for August 17th, 2023. I'm James Sullivan, as chairman of the board. I'd ask you now to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the
United
flag
States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting by prominently posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk, and posting the agenda on the municipal website. Ms. C is our assistant planner and our vice secretary. Would you please call the roll?
Sure. Chairman Sullivan,
Here.
Mr. Connor,
here.
Mr. Stoner,
Here.
Ms. Chevalier,
Here.
Mr. Scogno,
Here.
Ms. Andrews,
Here.
Ms. Testaverde is absent, Mr. Izzo,
Here.
Mr. Cheney,
Here.
Mr. Gill,
Here.
myself, Ms. C. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We welcome Jeffrey Cheney, Esquire, as our counsel this evening. Nice to see you, Mr. Cheney.
Good to see you guys.
This meeting is being conducted electronically via the internet. It's unique. It takes patience to get used to it if you're watching at home or looking to call in. We are not in the courtroom this evening, but we're doing so from our own home or our own home offices. This meeting is simultaneously being televised by OBTV Channel 15, as well as YouTube Live, where you can go back and watch these meetings if you look them up, as well as the council meetings and planning board. I remind those that are watching on any device that there's up to a 30-second delay in communication. This is important to remember if you wish to personally join a public portion this evening on one of the two applications. If you're calling in, you're going to have to lower your device, otherwise you're going to be confused by the time delay. I would ask all participants now in the meeting room to silence their cell phones at this juncture to avoid any disturbances. Our meeting follows the same protocols as if we were live in the courtroom. This evening, we have a shortened agenda. While there was 5 applications on the agenda, there's only going to be 2 this evening. I'll explain that a little bit later as to what's going on there. If you're going to call in about either of these that you're going to hear tonight, please take some notes. So when you do come live on the air with us, it'll refresh your memory, because we take your calls at the very end of each application before it goes to the board for deliberation. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to the assistant planner and our vice secretary, Ms. C, to remind some of the members and those at home of some other items. Ms. C.
Thank you. So as chairman mentioned, we have 2 applications scheduled for this evening and no administrative matters. So once the presentation for an application begins, the applicant's professionals will be asked to turn on their video and unmute themselves in the order in which they will testify. For the public, I will announce the last 4 digits of the caller's phone number to come forward and announce their name and address. I will also announce the last 4 digits of the next caller's phone number so that they can be prepared. We will share our screen to display any exhibits. The meeting information will be displayed on the screen multiple times during the meeting so that any resident who wishes to call in and join the meeting can do so. Please be patient. You will have an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. C. As I mentioned, if you have copies of the agenda this evening, whether you found it on the website or you personally downloaded one, if you printed it prior to today, it's going to go in the same order, except only the first 2 under applications. That would be Delcy Sambula and Melinda Coquel. Those are the only 2 that are going to be heard this evening. So the following 3, and I'll read them in now so we can get them kind of out of the way. 38-2023Z, that's Michelle Nergis. That's block 18079, lot 75.11, the physical locations, 39 Farless Avenue. That matter is going to be withdrawn, and that has to do, we'll let Mr. Gill get to that in a moment, with a change in ordinance concerning fences. Also, you go on the agenda to the next one, 41-2023Z, that's Brian Selther. The location there is 620 Greenwood Ave, block 25, lot 620. That matter is adjourned until October 19th. There will be further notice on that matter. It will not be heard this evening if you're interested in that one. Will be on the agenda for October 19th. And finally, 42, the last one on the agenda for the evening, 42-2023Z, Sneh Shah. That's a physical location of 12 Lobelia Lane, block 7127, lot 6. That also concerned a fence. And again, that's to be withdrawn. Mr. Gill, why don't you join in now and tell people why those two matters concerning fences are not are going to be withdrawn?
Of course, Chairman. Thank you. Good evening, members and the public. Both applications are being withdrawn for the same reason. So when I discuss it, it really holds true for both applications. As the board is no doubt aware, and the public may be aware if they've been paying attention, the board regularly hears applications for fences in a front yard, particularly on corner lots. Occasionally, it happens that an individual wants to put a 6-foot fence or a privacy fence in their side yard, and the board has routinely heard these cases. What occurred was the applications, the amount of applications we received, concerns from residents, prompted an ordinance review and an ordinance change. That ordinance change has now made it a little bit easier for homeowners to install their fences, their privacy fences, in their secondary front yards, or what we would consider their side rear yard. And the ordinance essentially changed to, instead of requiring the front yard fence to be the narrower street frontage, which is the language that was used, it changed it so that it made more sense and made the side or secondary yard, as it relates to fences, the side that the house doesn't face. So when we look at a corner property and we see it facing one street, that secondary street, regardless of its length or its width, can be enclosed with a 6-foot fence. So the board will be seeing less of those applications. That was the relief that these two applicants sought. But since the ordinance changed, they opted to wait for that ordinance to become effective, which will be effective later this month. And then they will be able to get administrative approvals via the normal permitting process. If any of the board members have any questions, I think it would be appropriate to field them at this time. Otherwise, we can move on.
Okay, I don't think maybe we'll go to that later if anybody does have any. I don't want to delay the two applications, but thank you for your explanation, Mr. Gill. Mr. Gill is the zoning officer for the township, and he put that succinctly.
Thank you, Chairman.
On that one. As there is no other administrative matters tonight, or no matters of any adjournments, we'll go right to the first of the two applications. The first one is 23-2023Z. It's Delcy Symbol. It's R6 zone. It's block 18047, lot 22. This is physical location 34 Farmbrook Drive for a driveway. Applicants seeks to legitimize a driveway expansion completed between July and October of 2022. Is there a Ms. or Mrs. Sabula?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
Mr. Sabula.
Okay, so
Yes, I was trying to share the.
hold on a second, sir. Just hold on. If you're going to be the only one to testify, you have any other witnesses, sir?
I'm sorry?
Will there be any other witnesses testifying about this matter other than yourself?
My wife, but actually we're at two different locations right now because I had to step out of the country.
Okay,
But I wanted to see if they could share the actual link with my wife.
I don't know, Ms. C.
So Only one email, I believe, was given to our office.
Yeah.
So our staff shared it with whatever information was given to us.
Okay, I understand, and I was
So
told.
if your wife needs the link, you could actually forward yours to her. The one that you received, that would be appropriate. And then we can just change her name.
Yes,
ask when it's in a meeting.
I'm sorry. Okay, I will try to share it with her right now. Can you just give me a second, please?
Would you, okay, you're out of the country, you're saying, sir?
Yes, I'm in.
We'll give you a quick minute, otherwise I'm going to move you to the second application, if it's going to take a while.
No, I mean, I can respond. I have no issues with that. I just wanted to, because I know that she's waiting, but
Okay.
I can go ahead and respond. That's fine.
Okay, the board attorney has to swear all witnesses in, and he's going to do so now, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Sir, can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear as to the truth of testimony for which you're about to provide?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cibula, what we know about this is that you apparently expanded your driveway, and I guess it is close to the lot line, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
from what I've seen. So why don't you just tell the board what happened, how you did it, why you did it, and then we're going to ask Mr. Gill why you're here this evening seeking a variance. There may be some questions from other members of the board. The attorney may have a question for you. I don't know. We'll see how it progresses. But we're trying to make it a little simpler on homeowners when they're not represented by expert witnesses. So just in your own pace, you can go ahead and tell us what happened, and we'll see where we have to go from there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. And what happened was there was a gentleman that approached our house and asked us if we wanted to do our driveway. And my first question to him was, okay, if we do it, what we really wanted to do was have something similar to what our front neighbor had, but, how do we go about it? I understand that, everything had to be done with permit. And what he told us was, no, we take care of everything. It'll be done in 3 days. And that was Intelligent Paving. That was the name of the company. And the name of the gentleman was Anthony. Also it said on the flyer itself. So what we did was proceed to ask him if he would give us a price, like, going all the way toward the back to clean the pavers that were already there, behind the actual driveway, and expand the driveway, by, I think it was 4 feet, in terms of width. So, so he said, yes, that would be no issue. It would be, I can do it for, I believe it was, we ended up in a price range of $9,500. And, so because he said that he was going to clean the pavers in the back, then we said, okay, it sounded like a good deal. So we went ahead and said, okay, we will do. And he requested, if we could pay him in cash. Well, which I agreed, as long as everything is done properly. But as everybody would probably know now, we all are working families, and myself and my wife work. So when the work was done, I just didn't happen to be home. I was at work, she was at work, and then so it took about, I would say, 2 days initially. Then he came back twice again, and even the front, like the main entrance of the driveway, was not left the way he had said that it was going to be. So it basically had 2 tones, so, but we're not trouble family. So we said, you know what, if that's the way you're going to leave it, fine, we're going to fix it after. But then we realized that, there was no permit or anything like that. filed. When the inspector actually told us that, well, we got the letter and it said that a neighbor had complained about it, and not sure how that went. This is new to us. It was the first time that it actually happened to us. So we went back and forward trying to get him to fix the stuff, fix the front at least, because it didn't look right. We had the land surveyed, to make sure that it didn't go, of course it didn't go to our neighbor's land, which she's okay with everything that was done as well. And because we did talk to her about it, and so that's pretty much what happened in that sense.
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Gill why you're here for a variance. Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chairman. As Mr. Sambula said, the application was born of a complaint. A complaint came in that there was work being done without permits, and when we investigated, we confirmed that there was a driveway expansion that was taking place, or that had taken place recently. Our research indicated, as the denial letter indicates, that it was installed, it was installed between July 2022 and October 2022. The denial letter reads as follows: that the applicant is seeking to legitimize a driveway expansion. The applicant has installed a driveway 1 foot from the side property line where 5 foot is required, and the applicant will require a C variance along with any other variances. The initial complaint was that the driveway expansion may have extended onto an adjacent property, which is what precipitated a new survey being prepared to show the actual footprint of the driveway. Mr. and Mrs. Sambula did work with us to address the issue, did get us the revised survey, or an updated survey, so that we can clearly see that it wasn't on to the adjacent parcel. We did discover, however, that it was too close, or we confirmed, I should say, that it was too close to the property line, and rather than cutting out what he had done because of the expense, he opted to come before us this evening and try to solicit a variance from the board.
All right.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Board members, any questions of the applicant? All right, I see no hands. Board members, we've come across this before. Unfortunately, people get misinformation and act, I guess, sometimes without guidance, and that's understandable. It's human nature. But we're sitting in a situation where it's not on the lot line, correct, Mr. Gill? It's a 1 foot off the lot line, as witnessed by the survey?
Correct, Chairman. You'll see that there's a granite block curb that's about a foot in.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. And does that go all the way back, Mr. Gill, or?
It does not.
Just the
It does
front,
not. There's a curb, there's a carport. It goes to about 3/4 of the way back, adjacent to the carport. So there's
Yeah, I
like
got a little confused when he said something about cleaning pavers in the back, but that's okay.
there were pavers connecting to the carport and the block patio.
Okay. All right. This board members, I mean, this seems like an innocent and an unfortunate situation. Perhaps dealing with some of these contractors may not be as honest with people, and that's a sad situation for misguiding someone that they wouldn't need a permit. But in any event, the man has, I think, come forward to us and told the story as it really happened. So we're looking at a situation where he's 1 foot off where 5 is required. Is there anybody, before I ask the call for a vote here, does anybody have any questions of the applicant as to his veracity or anything as to the build? Okay, I see none. Mr. Cheney, I think he's been rather forthright, and I don't know that there was any intent to probably he thought he was getting permits from the contractor and he didn't. And I guess that's a human nature kind of thing. I'm going to find out in the public portion if there's anyone here to complain about it. but it would seem probably unfair to make him kind of rip that out, wouldn't you think, Mr. Cheney?
I'm inclined to agree with you.
Okay, all right. Mr. Sambula, we have to open what's called a public portion in order for to see if there's anyone who's wants to speak on this matter. You understand that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to do that now, sir, and then we'll come back and we'll see if there's any final comments from anybody. This is matter number 23-2023Z. The location is 34 Farmbrook Drive. This is for an expansion of a driveway that got too close to the lot line. It's 1 foot off where 5 is required by the ordinance. If you have any interest in this matter in front of you, whatever device you're watching us on, you see a list of phone numbers, please call those. And in reference, these numbers don't change. So in the very next application, if you're sitting around waiting to have something on the next application, jot one of these numbers down because the numbers are going to be the same. So please call in now if you have any concern or you want to speak to the board concerning just this matter right now. Ms. C, is anyone in queue?
We don't have any raised hands, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Let's just give it another 30 seconds or so for those at home. Or it would be imperative that if you have anything you want to say, it would be now. There was only going to be one public portion. And once I close that public portion tonight, the board will probably take action in the way of a vote to either approve or disapprove. So once again, this would be the only time that you would get to make commentary on this particular application. So once again, folks, call one of those phone numbers if you wish to speak. After this, I'm going to ask Ms. C if there is anybody in queue, and then we're probably going to close the public portion. Ms. C, anybody yet?
No, Chairman, I just want to say, I think earlier I had seen Ms. Chevalier's hand up, just wanted to
Okay,
make a note
we'll
for
get
you.
back to her then too, before we go to any vote. Mr. Cheney, do you think we gave adequate notice for the public to call in?
I'm satisfied with it.
Thank you
No,
very much,
Mr.
Mr. Cheney. Okay, I'm going to close the public portion at this time. Ms. Chevalier? Go
I
ahead.
was just, hi, I was just curious if he got a quote for how much it would be to reduce the driveway to the 5 foot required for cost?
Mr. Schindler?
No, I did not.
Okay, just curious.
Chairman, if I may,
Go ahead.
I just to clarify, the expansion was only 4 foot, or was only about 4 foot. So getting a price would have been basically to remove everything that he installed. So he likely wouldn't have needed a variance. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear for the record.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And just to be clear for the record as well. So this is when you're saying for the 4. So what is the 4 in terms of I guess lot area, for lack of a better term, for 4 foot wide by what length?
If you bear with me 1 second, it is approximately 30, approximately 55 feet.
Thank you.
Right, 30 and 30, 60, yeah. Approximately 55 feet.
55 feet. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So 4
approximately.
4 feet wide, 55 feet deep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My parrot is screaming again tonight, as you can probably hear, so I've been trying to mute myself in between. Is there any other board members that have a question for the applicant? Mr. Izzo, go ahead.
Mr. Sambula, did you at least get a curb? The curb came out nice to your driveway?
No, that's what I was saying, that I wanted, and I had mentioned that, like, the very entrance of the driveway was not left properly. And we are still waiting for, once the hearing and everything it's said and done, we want to make sure that that is fixed, because we spoke to our neighbor also that, because we did go back and forth about how is it that he's going to leave it like this? It looks like a sharp edge. It doesn't look right. So we know that it actually looks like two-tone, and we feel terrible about it because we want to fix it, but we couldn't touch it until we go through the hearings.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mr. Symbol and actually, let me ask Mr. Gill first. I don't know if you physically went to on the site. I'm wondering, is this going to cause any runoff problem onto the other property?
I have not been to the site to determine whether there's a runoff issue, but because there's a granite block, I suspect that there's going to be a little bit of a raised curb like the one we dealt with last month. So even if
Yes.
water is directed that way, it'll likely be directed out to the street or retained on the property. And just to address the board members' concerns, if the board were to act favorably on this application, he would still be required to secure a zoning permit. At that time, because he took it to the curb, he's also going to be directed to our engineering office for a road opening permit because they widened the curb opening. And he'll have to secure those approvals too. Mr. Sambula didn't secure that approval, as he just stated, because he's waiting to see if the board is going to approve this.
Oh, okay, very good. So those matters will be obviously examined at a later date should this
Yes,
get approval. You
Correct,
understand,
Chairman.
Mr. Symbol, what the zoning officer explained, right?
Yes, I do.
And if you got an approval from us tonight, you're going to comply with all the regulations and get a zoning permit and probably have a check by the engineering department, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You have anything else you want to tell us, Mr. Symbol?
No, not at this time. Everything's pretty clear.
Okay, well, you were rather candid. I appreciate that, and I'm sure the board does as well. Is there final comments from the board? Anyone? Otherwise, I'm going to call for a vote. I see no raised hands. Okay, I'd like to call for a vote at this time. Is someone interested in moving this for an approval?
Chevalier will move it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Andrews.
All right,
I believe that was Mr. Scogno, or?
Let's
Roll
go.
call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Izzo,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes, I just, again, I thank you, Mr. Symbol, for your candidness. And I just advise homeowners, you can find out any information either on the township's website and or by calling, in to find information from the building department or the zoning department. So you'll have a resolution by next month, sir, at our next meeting, which will be, I think, September, what is it, Natalie?
The
September
7th.
7th, okay. So make sure that you do file any necessary papers with the township, sir, and you have gained approval. At this point, you'll have a resolution to this reference to this matter at the next meeting. You don't have to attend. It'll be prepared and read into the record of the next meeting, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much for your appearance tonight, sir.
Okay.
Okay, final matter, and the only other matter tonight is 26-2023Z. That's Majlinda Kokal. I hope I'm saying it right. It's zone 520, it's a R20 zone, block 25100, lot 26. The physical location is 47 Carter Drive. I think this is the presidential estates on North Texas.
Yes, it is. Good evening.
Ms. Kokal, I see you. Did I say your name right, I hope?
Yes, you did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Are you going to be the only one to testify, ma'am?
Yes, my husband was supposed to, but something came up with work, so I'm the only
Okay,
one.
The board attorney is going to swear you in, okay?
Okay. Good evening to everyone.
Good evening. Can you please raise your right hand? Just raise your right hand.
Okay.
I already did that one earlier. All good. Do you solemnly swear as to the testimony that you're about to provide? Thank you.
To the testimony that I will provide tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Kokal, you heard me give an explanation to the previous application. You're not represented by any experts, I'm assuming. You're just going to testify as to yourself. This matter, it says, seeks to legitimize a gazebo in their rear yard. So I'm assuming that you put up a gazebo. You can see that on an overview of the property. And I guess the zoning officer is going to tell us you're probably too close, or there might be a landscape area ratios issue. But in any event, tell us in your own words why you're here, what happened, how that happened, And then we may have some questions for you, and we'll proceed just like we proceeded in the previous application. All right, so you can take your time and just tell us what happened.
I own a pool also in the area that the gazebo is next to. So I love to cook outside and be with my kids. So I begged my husband that we should do something like a gazebo, like cooking area, basically, that I can put the barbecue and have the kids around. And coming from New York, when I moved to New Jersey, didn't think that I needed permit for something that is, away from everybody in the backyard. So we kind of did it DIY, me and my husband, and with the help of friends and family. And I put pavers around it because I hated the snakes and the all crawly stuff in the back of it. New Yorker moving to Jersey, you come with the different ideas. Sir, I cannot hear you. I'm not sure why.
Also in the front of your home, there's paver driveway. Is that an issue?
Yes, when I did this, I pavered the driveway that was with asphalt because it was cracking. So I pavered that too.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to tell us at this particular point? And
I know I don't have that much greenery anymore, like in a ratio, and that was actually the main problem that happened. In that gazebo, I don't have water supply or gas supply. I just have the barbecue. The electricity was already in the backyard for light next to the pool, so I did not send any electricity there. Was already there, so I just plugged my lights there, and this is it.
okay, your property is uniquely located. You're if I were standing in front of your house, looking at your house, there is no house to your right, correct?
Oh, no. Okay. It's the wooden area that
Right.
It's protected.
Right. And then behind your house, there's no houses, right? There's just woods, right?
Very scary. Yeah, just woods.
Well, yeah. So no one could probably from either angle see into your backyard. I would assume your neighbor probably could on the other side, but there's no one, no one's behind you, no one's to the left or to the right side as you would look at your house, correct?
No, I have just wild animals.
All right, wild animals. Well, okay. Let me ask the zoning officer what happened here. Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the application is also predicated on some work that was done without permits, as Ms. Cacao indicated. They're seeking this evening to legitimize the gazebo in the rear yard that was constructed without permits. But during that review, it was also discovered that there was additional rear yard paver areas installed around the pool. So there was an existing pool that had some greenery on the left side as you face it from the street, and kind of in the back that was extended. And the asphalt driveway was redone and extended and squared off to connect to the front steps without a zoning permit. The issue with the gazebo is that it was installed a little under 1.4 foot from the rear property line, where a 10-foot minimum is required. And it was additionally installed 8 feet from the right side property line, where a minimum of 10 foot is required. The overall improvement, so there's no issue with the driveway per se, but because it's far enough away from the property lines, it's the right width. The issue with the driveways and the pavers and then the gazebo in total is that the improvements bring the total landscape area ratio down to 33.28, where a minimum of 55% is required. So the applicant is here this evening, as the application indicates, for multiple C variances. It's variance specifically for rear yard setback, side yard setback for the gazebo, and then landscape area ratio for all of the improvements that were done.
Okay, board members, questions of the applicant or questions of Mr. Gill? So you have three issues here. It's the rear yard because of the gazebo, side yard, and the landscape area ratio, correct, Mr. Gill?
Correct, Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Kokal, do you understand what the reasoning is for that?
I do. I left no much greenery.
Okay, well, yeah, there are ordinances for minimum landscape area ratio, and so and you're at 33, it's supposed to be 55, so you're quite deficient there. And of course, the gazebo, I'm certain you don't feel like moving, so
The gazebo, not really. I mean, if it's needed to, we'll do what the right way is according to law. But if we can, get a permit and legalize it, that would be great.
1.4 where 10 is the minimum, right? And the right side is 8 foot where 10 is required, Mr. Gill?
Correct,
Yeah.
Chairman.
Okay. All right, let me see if any of the board members have any questions concerning this before we go to the public. Anybody raise your hand if you want to be heard, members? Okay, seeing no questions from them, Mr. Cheney, anything from you at this point?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Let's, Ms. Kokal, as I did in the previous application, I have to open a public portion. You understand that, correct?
Of course, okay,
I'm
definitely.
going to do that at this time and we'll come back and see what happens afterwards. Once again, matter 26-2023Z. It's 47 Carter Drive is the physical location. There's 3 seat variances being requested here for a gazebo that's too close to the line. It's a rear yard, a side yard, and a LAR or a landscape area ratio seat variance. Once again, phone numbers are on the screen. However you're watching us, if you have any questions concerning this or comments, now would be the time to call in. Let's see, is anyone in queue at this time?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, we'll give this a little bit of time. Again, this matter is probably going to reach a conclusion tonight. That means that this is going to be the only public portion. That's why this would be the only time if you have a comment, it would be now to call in, because once I close the public portion, we'll probably this application will culminate tonight, so there'd be no further public address on this matter. Anybody yet, Ms. C?
No.
Okay, Mr. Cheney, as we on the previous one, the numbers have been up for a period of time and were posted prior. Should someone want to go in, do you think we've given adequate address to this?
Yes, I'm satisfied with the notice.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. We'll go back to the board. Ms. Kokal, any final comments? I'm assuming you're going to ask me to call for a vote tonight, right?
Of course, I definitely want to.
Okay.
I hope I'm passing. If greenery is a problem that I can solve, I honestly want the gazebo to stay on my heart.
I don't.
I have a question for Mr. Gill, if possible. I think he might be the best one to answer this. So in regards to the 10 by 15 shed that is also noted on the denial, how would that play in with the landscape area ratio? If that were removed, and obviously needs to be relocated or removed entirely, as noted by the denial application, how would that get the applicants closer, much closer?
Not, I wouldn't say much closer, Carter. Well, all right, 1 second. Let me just calculate this out. So the lot is roughly 57 by 132. So 50, 132. Bear with me a second. I'm gonna do some simple math. 32 plus 184. That's 158, 151 here times 57. So the lot is roughly 9,000 square feet. If we were to take, so 150 divided by 9,000, it's going to be about 2% that it's going to come down. It's not a substantial, it's not a substantial takedown. But I will say this since you brought it up, what I was going to recommend, well, not recommend, I'm sorry. What I was going to say to Ms. Cacao tomorrow, regardless of whether this application proceeds favorably or not, is that there was a condition to remove that shed as part of an original approval that was granted, I think, for the pool. I don't remember exactly what the permit was for, but it says it in the denial letter that there was a permit and there's a permit number referenced. I didn't issue this denial letter, but it goes back to 2006. So that shed was supposed to be relocated or removed. So we were going to have a discussion about how she wanted to proceed with that. So you bring up a good point that removing it, if she were to agree to remove it, it would reduce the landscape area, not substantially, but it would reduce it.
May I get a take?
Mr. Gill, isn't that shed over the property line anyway?
It is. That's why I was going to have a conversation with Ms. Cacao tomorrow. I was just waiting to see whether or not this was like how this application shaked out to have that conversation as an enforcement action, because it was issued. Whatever permit was issued in 2006 identified that the shed was encroaching onto those woods that you had identified, Chairman.
Right.
And that's obviously not permissible. So she was going to either have to relocate it onto the property 3 feet away in compliance, or she was going to have to remove it entirely.
May I get a say, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Coco.
I bought the house 2016. So the shed was with the previous owners that the house was. When we passed it, the lawyer let us know that they kind of fixed this problem. We never were aware until this issue with my gazebo came. So I'm not sure I would do anything that needs to be done, but the house was sold with the gazebo there. And
You mean the
they
shed?
said-
The
Yes,
shed,
the
right?
shed. I'm sorry, the shed.
No, no.
The white shed that is next to the gazebo. That's how the house was sold to me. And we went to every procedure that needed to be done, every paperwork. They said it's legit. They passed it. I'm not sure how they sold it to us. The lawyer said it was no problem, but I guess.
Well, yeah, the
Had an
problem is,
issue.
I don't know what the lawyer knew, what the conversation was, and he's not sitting here tonight with us.
Yes,
So
right.
he gave you bad information.
I am an owner since 2016 of this house that I own right now.
Right, and Mr. Gill mentioned that they've already been in contact with you to do something with that shed, correct?
No, Chairman, let me correct that. No, I said I didn't want to contaminate this application.
Okay,
With that, there were conversations previously about the property in general, and we had identified this as the shed as being an encroachment. So she was aware of it, but we haven't given her any direction. So I don't want to mislead the board.
okay.
We were waiting to see.
Yeah.
We were waiting to see if the board decided to do something with this shed. Maybe we can make that. Like if I told her, "Hey, remove it," that could have been a chit potentially to the board, or she might have just decided to do something else. So we didn't want to direct her yet.
Well,
Okay.
Ms. Cook, clearly it's from the survey, it's clearly it's off of your land and onto an adjoining lot, an abutting lot there. So either way, you're encroaching on someone else's land, whether that's
Right.
your land or it's clearly not your land, at least as the survey shows. So at
Okay.
the very least, you're going to have to move it.
Okay.
Whether you get rid of it, if you reposition it somewhere, obviously that's going to have to be in compliance with the zoning requirements. Your gazebo is not in compliance and you're seeking relief for that. And we understand that. But
Yes.
if you move that shed, you just can't push it to where the lot line is.
Of course not. No, I don't have space anymore. That I guess has to go.
Mr. Cheney, let me pick your brain. Certainly the board would be within their right to note that there's an encroachment on someone else's property and it's a shed, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, and does the board have the right to ask her to remove it, or should we just push that back over to the zoning department? In other words, if the board were to vote favorably on this, could we put that in the resolution that the shed is.
Yeah. Mr. Gill, could you, I know, I recall you saying that you did not want to contaminate. Can you reiterate what you meant by that? Just so I can just, considering Chairman Sullivan's question.
Yeah, no, I just meant that I didn't want to conflate the issues that she did with things that she purchased. We did confirm that that shed was installed prior to her purchase. And I was waiting for the chairman to finish to just also iterate that the previous owner took a little bit of liberty. If you look at Google Maps, you know, in your spare time, you'll see that the property doesn't end where the property, like if you look at it visually, the property doesn't end at the property line. There are planters that were installed. There's landscaping and lawnscaping that was installed. That's not on the property. It's off the property in this area where this shed is. And the yard, if you were to look at it, appears to be 15 or 20 feet larger than what it was. So what I mean to say when I didn't want to contaminate it is that there is, I wouldn't say pushback, but Mr. and Mrs. Kokal have mentioned, look, we bought the property like this. We'd rather not do anything to change that. We're just maintaining at this point, but we're on notice that we don't want to do anything else over there because it's not our property. And I said, well, we'll get to that, but you've done this stuff and we need to deal with this. So I certainly don't want to discourage the board from doing what it feels it's appropriate and whatever legally is within our limits. But that's all I meant. I just didn't want to conflate what she did with what she purchased and inherited.
Understood.
Well, I would say, sorry. Go ahead, Chairman Sullivan.
No, go ahead, Mr.
Lose you guys?
So I would say that, I mean, and as the board is aware, a fairly standard provision in the resolutions is that the applicant shall secure any and all other approvals, licenses, and permits required by any of the board, agency, or entity having jurisdiction over the subject application or over the subject property. So I would say in that regard, certainly would not be outside of the board's, authority to condition an approval on that shed being moved. But ultimately, that's weighted up. They want to make that an express condition is up to the board.
That's understood. I mean, I'm looking at Google Earth now on this property, and it's a good sized shed. I don't know where they would fit it back on the property, so it would have to go because it's clearly not anywhere near on their property. You look
Really?
Well,
I know that it's really big. I know that. I honestly do know. But as I said, we bought it like that. They said it was no problem. So we continue just to maintain everything that is in the property around us too.
Well, I have to disagree with that logic because whether you bought it or not, if that you may have an issue with your title company or something to seek redress, but that does not mean that the township has to allow you to do that.
Yes,
So
you're right.
just
You're right.
because it's there doesn't mean it can't go.
Of course.
And
No.
Mr.
I'm 100%. I honestly, from me, I don't want it. But my husband is a little bit like, oh, let's keep this, let's do that. For me, tomorrow I will take it out with all honest.
Ms. Kokal, I think this brings up an interesting point here with the concrete patio. I can appreciate it, but based on the survey that the concrete patio, kind of has a similar shape as the in-ground pool. But in that regard, is there any way that area can be made or manipulated more, or is there any way so that can to increase your landscape area, but also to make it so that shed can fit anywhere in there, at least, potentially, I think everyone here would agree that at least if the shed being in the corner, whether or not that, it technically fits in the setback, it's better to have your shed completely on your property than somewhat off your property.
Yes,
So that's kind of two
definitely-
questions there. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Definitely, it has to be on my property. That's the right way to do it. And I would want that way to be done. The white shed, it's really big. So if I put it in my property, I have nowhere to be put to move it because of the pool area and everything. It's really, really, really big. So the only way is for me to, if I cut it on size, I'm still not going to have enough greenery. So to have this pass where I did the application variation for the pavers and the gazebo, the shed has to be gone, on my opinion.
Okay, so now I guess one last thing, as to the benefits of it, can you speak just for 30 seconds as to the benefits of the patio, of the gazebo? How is it? Has it made it more enjoyable for you and your family? Has it, for your community, for your family and friends?
Yes, it did.
To that?
I love it. I love it, love it. I am mostly outside from April to late October. I cook, I stay outside. I love it. It's my enjoyment. It's a like retreat. So
Do you have a
whatever
family, like kids that you have
yes,
there?
I have.
Okay.
I have 2 kids and I have a big family that visits almost every weekend. So I cook and I own a restaurant in New Brooklyn. So I first try everything home, and so I love it.
Well, it certainly looks like you have a beautiful piece of property, and it certainly looks like it's well kept. Clearly, there were issues done without permission.
Yes.
Permits ahead of time. One way or another, you're going to have to wind up getting them either way. But the shed becomes an issue, and it looks to me from looking at your property, there's no room for that shed. And
No,
it's not on your property. So I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I would think.
Tell me, I'll do anything that it needs to be done.
Listen, each board member gets 1 vote. I don't know how the board's going to vote, but what I'm saying is it might be in your best interest that it's got to go. And I'd like you to voluntarily do that, but it will be part of the resolution should you make an agreement.
I think it's my best interest. It's to be removed.
Okay. Mr. Cheney, we can then make that part of the resolution should there be an approval.
Okay.
That the shed is to be taken off the property because there's no room for it anywhere in your backyard at this point.
No.
I get it would be literally almost on top of the pool. I guess you have those pavers. You wouldn't want to put a shed on top of them, I wouldn't think.
It's so big. Even if I do put it in top of it, it's so big. It's going to interrupt my pool area. It's not going to be safe for the kids to use the pool. It's really big shed. It's not something small.
There's really no place to put that on. The way it's
Chairman, I really don't see it. Even if she were to remove the planters on the right side of her patio adjacent to the pool, the whole patio area is only about 15 feet. So she could shift it, but she would lose at least 3/4 of that. So the edge of that shed relocated adjacent to the pool, it would only be like 6 or 7 feet away. That would really sandwich that area.
Right.
And I think it would defeat the purpose of what she did with all the other pavers. And I'll throw this in just as kind of a throwaway statement, but I think one of the comments that I don't remember if it was Ms. Kokal that said it or if we said it. It's like the thought was, I've got over hundreds of acres of woods around me. I thought that this would be appropriate because there's plenty of green around, and I was like, I was still going to get to enjoy a lot of it. So.
Well,
so I think that was it went into the thought process as well.
Certainly, the removal of the shed isn't going to have any detrimental effect on the property. It's a good looking property. Obviously, you can see from Google Earth, and they've made it livable for their children. It looks safe. I'm sure that was in their minds for family and friends, and certainly the safety of their children. So I personally don't have an issue other than I would want the shed to be removed because it's not on their property.
Okay.
Any board members want to be heard before I'm going to ask Ms. Kokal if she wants a vote?
Mr. Gill, could you help me?
Mr. Izzo, go ahead.
Sir.
All right, the gazebo was installed 1.4 feet from the rear of the yard. Was that because of her misconception of where the rear of the yard was? Or is that part?
Honestly, I think I don't want to assume for Ms. Cocal, but there is, again, if you look at the Google Earth imagery, there is lawnscape, like not woods, but manicured lawn,
Yes.
10, 15 feet behind where the gazebo is.
So
So
I'm
I
trying
think
to-
there was
I'm- Yeah, I'm
I
trying to.
think there was a little bit of a presumption there.
Correct, okay. She didn't intentionally do anything. She inherited this in her own thought.
I think so. And I don't think that the surveys, because there weren't permits at the time that were obtained. I don't think that they explored where are my actual limits. They're like, hey, I got plenty of lawn. We put this in. And then when we come around, the bad guys that we are, it's like, oh, it's too close to the property line.
As far as the side yard, she's in the pinch for 2 feet. That ain't
Yes,
too-
about, yeah,
that
yeah.
ain't too- That's not too bad.
Well, obviously we like compliance, but that's
Of
what the board
course.
is for.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else? Mr. Rizzo, you done? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Did you finish? Okay. Any other board member? And Mr. Cheney, anything from you?
Nothing further.
Okay. I guess we can go to a public portion, see if anybody has any complaints, right? Is that okay with you, Ms. Cocal?
Of course.
All right. This is matter 26.
Chairman, I
Oh, I
thought
did
we had
already.
closed the,
We did
public
close it.
portion.
That's right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, then board members, now it's time to deliberate. You do want me to take a vote tonight, correct, Ms. Cocal?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and the resolution should, it's going to be part of the resolution that the shed will be removed from the property.
Okay. Yes, I do.
As part
I
of,
understand.
if there's an approval,
I
it'll be
understand.
part of it. Okay.
I understand.
So board members, this would be for 3 C variances. You have a rear and side yard setback and landscape area ratio, which is at, apparently it's at 33.28, where 55 required. The gazebo is 1.4, where 10 required. And 8 foot on the right side, where 10 is also required. Anyone interested in moving those 3 variances in this matter?
I'll move it, Stoner.
Thank you, Mr. Stoner. Is there a second?
Izzo?
Mr. Rizzo seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Izzo,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes, and as I said earlier, anytime you want information, the township would be more than willing to help people. If they don't have the information, it's a lot easier to check rather than spend a lot of wasted time here, in front of a board and seeking the relief. So your property is beautiful. I wish you luck. Obviously, the
Thank you
shed's
so
going to
much.
go, and there'll be a resolution prepared for you, and it will be adopted next meeting, which is the September meeting.
Okay. Thank you so
Any
much
other
to
questions?
everyone.
You can
Thank you.
speak to the zoning department. All right.
Thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you for being here tonight, ma'am.
Thank you.
Board members, that is our only matters for the evening. I'll open this to general public comments at this point. If anybody's watching that has any comments they want to make pertinent to zoning, that will be the time to do it. You can see the phone numbers in front of you. Our next meeting, I guess, is this, what did you say, Natalie, 7th?
September 7th in person.
September 7th, so that's obviously after the holiday. That will be in person. Is anybody on our lines now?
No, Chairman.
Okay. Any final comments from board members before I close the public portion? I actually, I can't see because the numbers are up in front of me anyway. So. Okay, no one has called in?
No, Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to close the public portion for general comments for this evening. Anything from the legal end, Mr. Cheney?
Nothing from me. All's good.
Thank you. And from the township, Ms. C, other than our next meeting date?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Absent any board members with comments? Mr. Connor, is that your hand up?
No,
Okay. Okay,
Miss Andrews has.
Ms.
her hand
Andrews, I
up.
see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make mention of what happened with Ms. Kolke. This happened to another gentleman, and it's with the contractor. And he also has a great wooded area behind it. It was somewhere, I believe, in the Woodhaven area. And he had to come for a variance because it was a brand new home. He had a fire pit, a beautiful backyard. And then he found out that he was just at the line. Is there something that these contractors should know, or someone, it's really not fair that something that has been previously on a property, when somebody sells the home, it's really not fair that they be penalized for something like that happening. Because I've only been on the board a short time, but in that time, so many things have come up with things that were told, or contractors doing something, not getting a permit and telling someone that they didn't need a permit for it. It's really very unfair. That's the only comment I can say. I know there's nothing I can do about it, but that there must be something, because it's really disheartening to know there are that many miserable people out there that do this. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I can't speak to the contractors. Obviously, probably some are better than others. Maybe some are more truthful than others. I couldn't. I really don't want to get into that kind of conversation. But ultimately, the homeowner is responsible for their own property, and it's. You go and somebody tries to talk you into buying something, whether it be a car or a home improvement, you ultimately make that decision, and you have to have that pretty well founded. I mean, thinking that adults buy homes, not young children. So you should kind of know that what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. And again, there's reference anytime. All you have to do is call the township and they'll give you the information. So I think sometimes people get self-assured by contractors, and they really shouldn't. And maybe the contractors, some of these guys don't know either what they're supposed to do. So I don't want to blame anybody, but I think ultimately it lies in the responsibility of the property owner. So, and that's why we find so many of these situations coming in. Some people move from out of state. Maybe the rules are different, but that's something that ultimately, I guess, we all have to hold our own responsibility for our own property. Any other comments? All right, well, if someone wants to move for adjournment, I want to wish everybody in advance a very healthy and happy Labor Day weekend, and almost the close of the summer, as it were. Someone want to move for adjournment, please?
I move it, Stoner.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Okay, I don't see Jim there.
Mr. Stoner,
Let's go home.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Have a healthy, happy Labor Day. Yes.
Mr. Izzo,
Yes, same here.
Chairman
Healthy-
Sullivan.
Yes, happy Labor Day, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Cheney, for being with us tonight. Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.
Everyone have
Okay.
a great Labor Day.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.